The morning sun cast long shadows across the peaceful mining colony of New Haven. Hannah wiped the sweat from her forehead as she checked the mining equipment one more time. She had been working on this remote planet for 3 years now, and she loved the quiet life here. The Valerian aliens who lived in the settlement were kind neighbors. They grew beautiful crystal gardens and never caused any trouble. Hannah watched as little Gina played near the botanical gardens. The 5-year-old Valerian child looked like a living gem, her skin shining with soft opal colors that changed as she moved. Her mother Mira worked nearby, tending to the strange crystal plants that the Valerians grew for food. These plants could only grow under their careful touch, making them very valuable. The Valerians were peaceful people. They had no weapons and no army. They believed that all life was sacred and refused to hurt any living thing. This made them perfect neighbors, but it also made them easy targets. Hannah had always worried about this. But the colony was so far from the main space routes that no one ever bothered them. That changed when the Korthak ships appeared in the sky. Hannah was checking a broken drill when she heard the screaming. She looked up to see 3 black ships descending from the clouds like giant insects. The ships were ugly and covered with spikes. They landed hard, crushing the crystal gardens under their weight. The Korthaks came out of their ships like a plague of locusts. They were tall, insect-like creatures with 6 arms and dark chitinous armor covering their bodies. Their faces looked like those of praying mantises, but with cruel intelligence burning in their compound eyes. They carried energy weapons that glowed with red light. Taemin, the human security chief, came running with his small team of guards. But they only had basic security weapons, nothing that could stop a real military force. The Korthaks cut through their defenses like they were made of paper. "Everyone get to the emergency shelters," Taemin shouted into his radio. But it was too late. The Korthaks were already spreading through the settlement like a virus. Hannah ran toward the botanical gardens where she had last seen Mira and Gina. As she ran, she saw the horrible truth of what was happening. The Korthaks were not just attacking randomly, they were hunting. They were looking for something specific. They were hunting the Valerian children. Hannah watched in horror as Korthak soldiers grabbed young Valerians and threw them into metal cages. The children's skin flickered with fear, their natural glow becoming frantic and chaotic. Their parents tried to fight, but the Valerians had no weapons and no knowledge of combat. One Valerian father threw himself at a Korthak soldier who was taking his son. The insect creature backhanded him casually, sending the crystal-skinned man flying across the street. He hit a wall and lay still, his body dim and lifeless. Hannah hid behind a storage building and watched the nightmare unfold. She understood now why the Korthaks had come. Valerian children were worth a fortune in the illegal slave markets. Their beautiful appearance and gentle nature made them perfect servants for the wealthy criminals of the galaxy. Adult Valerians were too aware, too likely to resist or escape. But children could be trained to obey. The thought made Hannah sick to her stomach. She heard familiar voices and peered around the corner. Mira was trying to lead little Gina away from the main attack, moving through her beloved gardens toward the forest. But 3 Korthak soldiers had seen them. "There," one of the creatures hissed in the common trade language. "A young one." The soldiers surrounded Mira and Gina quickly. The little girl pressed against her mother, her skin now flickering with pure terror. Mira tried to shield her daughter with her own body, but she was no match for the armored soldiers. The lead Korthak, who wore the marks of a captain, looked down at Gina with hungry eyes. His mandibles clicked together in what Hannah recognized as their version of laughter. "Perfect," the captain said, young and pure. "The buyers will pay extra for this one." Hannah felt something break inside her chest. She looked around desperately for Taemin or any of the other security guards, but they were all fighting their own battles across the settlement. The few human defenders were completely outnumbered. She was alone. But as she watched the Korthak captain reach for little Gina, Hannah knew she could not just hide and watch. Something deep in her human DNA, something that had kept her species alive for millions of years, began to burn in her chest. The protective instinct, the need to defend the innocent, the refusal to let predators win. Hannah checked her tool belt. She had a plasma cutter for mining work, a few emergency flares, and her communicator. Not much against military weapons, but it was what she had. She took a deep breath and prepared to do something incredibly stupid and probably suicidal. But as she watched Gina's terrified face, she knew she had no choice. The Korthaks had made a mistake. They thought they were just dealing with a defenseless mining colony. They had no idea they were about to face something far more dangerous than weapons or armor. They were about to face a human who had decided to protect a child. The captain was still talking to his soldiers when Hana stepped out of hiding. Her heart was beating so hard she thought it might explode, but her hands were steady. She activated her plasma cutter and held it like a weapon. "Let them go," she said in a voice that surprised her with its strength. The Korthax turned to look at her, their compound eyes reflecting the light of her plasma cutter. The captain's mandibles clicked again, but this time it sounded more like curiosity than laughter. "A human," he said. "How interesting. I thought you were all busy running away." Hana took another step forward, placing herself between the Korthax and the Valerian family. Behind her, she could feel Mira's gratitude and terror mixing together. "I said let them go," Hana repeated. The captain studied her for a moment, then gestured to his soldiers. They raised their weapons, the red energy beginning to glow brighter. "You are brave, human," the captain said, "but also very stupid. You cannot stop us." Hana smiled, though her heart was racing with fear. "Maybe not," she said, "but I can try." The standoff began. The Korthak captain looked at Hana with amusement in his cold, compound eyes. He gestured with one of his 6 arms, and his soldiers lowered their weapons slightly. Not because he was afraid of the human woman with her small plasma cutter, but because he was curious. "You interest me, human," the captain said, his voice like grinding metal. "What is this small creature to you? She is not your species. She is not your family. Why do you care?" Behind Hana, Mira held little Gina closer to her chest. The child's opal skin was flickering rapidly with fear, creating patterns of light that would have been beautiful under better circumstances. Now they just showed how terrified she was. Hana kept her plasma cutter pointed at the captain, though she knew it would barely scratch his armor. "She's a child," Hana said simply. "That's enough." The captain's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among his kind. "Humans," he said to his soldiers. "They are so strange. They think they are responsible for every weak thing in the galaxy." One of the soldiers, younger than the others, spoke up. "Captain, we should just kill the human and take the child. The buyers are waiting." But the captain held up a clawed hand. "No," he said. "I want to understand this. Human, step aside. We are not here to hurt you. We only want the young Valerian. She will have a good life serving wealthy masters, much better than dying slowly on this worthless rock." "No," Hana said, her voice steady despite the fear rushing through her veins. The captain tilted his insect head, studying her. "You would die for a creature that shares no blood with you? This makes no sense." Behind Hana, Mira finally found her voice. The Valerian mother stepped forward, her crystalline form shaking but determined. "Please," she said in broken common language. "Please take me instead." The captain's attention shifted to Mira, and Hana saw something cruel light up in his eyes. This was what he had been waiting for. The moment when the parent would beg. "Ah," the captain said, his voice soft and dangerous. "Now we reach the heart of it. The mother speaks." Mira moved to stand beside Hana, though she had no weapon and no way to fight. Her love for her daughter gave her courage that her peaceful nature never could. "She is only 5, Mira said, her voice growing stronger. "She has done nothing wrong. She has never hurt anyone. Take me instead. I will serve without fighting. I will be good slave. Just let my daughter live free." Tears began to fall from Mira's large eyes. But Valerian tears were not like human tears. They were liquid crystal, and as they fell, they caught the light and threw tiny rainbows across the ground. It was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. Little Gina looked up at her mother with confusion. She was too young to fully understand what was happening, but she knew her mother was scared. "Mama?" she whispered in her musical Valerian language. The captain watched this scene with obvious pleasure. "How touching," he said. "But you misunderstand the situation, Crystal Mother. Adult Valerians are nearly worthless in the slave markets. You are too smart, too aware. You would always be planning to escape or to resist. But children..." He looked down at Gina with hungry eyes. "Children can be trained. They can be shaped. They forget their old lives and become perfect servants." Mira's crystalline skin began to glow brighter with anger and desperation. "She is just a baby," she cried. "She still plays with dolls. She still needs me to sing her to sleep." "Not anymore," the captain said coldly. Hana watched this exchange with growing rage. She had seen predators before back on Earth. Wild animals that hunted the weak and the young. But those animals killed for food, for survival. This was different. This was cruelty for profit. "You're making a mistake," Hana said, trying to keep her voice calm. The captain looked back at her. "Am I? What mistake is that, little human?" "You think we're helpless because we're a peaceful colony," Hana said. "But you don't understand humans very well." The captain's mandibles clicked with amusement. "I understand humans perfectly. You are a warrior species that likes to pretend to be civilized, but you are also practical. You will not throw your life away for someone else's child." "That's where you're wrong," Hana said. She took a step closer to the captain, still keeping herself between him and the Valerian family. "Humans don't see someone else's child. We just see a child who needs protection." The captain studied her face, looking for signs of deception or weakness. "You really would die for this alien child?" "Yes," Hana said without hesitation, "even though she is not human." "Especially because she's not human," Hana said. "She can't protect herself." Behind her, Mira made a sound of surprise. In her culture, the Valerians only felt responsible for their own families, their own communities. The idea that someone would risk their life for a complete stranger from another species was almost impossible to understand. But for Hana, it felt as natural as breathing. The captain was quiet for a long moment, considering. Then he gestured to his soldiers again. "Kill the human," he ordered. "Take both Valerians. We can at least get something for the mother, even if it is not much." The soldiers raised their weapons, the red energy beginning to glow bright and deadly. Hana tensed, ready to try to dodge, though she knew it was hopeless. But then Mira stepped in front of Hana. "No," the Valerian mother cried. "Do not hurt her! She was trying to help us. If you must take someone, take me. Leave both of them alone." Now it was Hana's turn to be surprised. Mira was trying to protect her, just as she had tried to protect Gina. Little Gina, seeing both her mother and the kind human lady in danger, began to cry. Her sobs were like tiny bells, musical and heartbreaking. "Don't hurt Mama," she whispered. "Don't hurt nice lady." The captain looked at all three of them with disgust. "Pathetic," he said. "All of you, trying to sacrifice yourselves for each other. It makes me sick." He raised his own weapon, a larger and more deadly version of what his soldiers carried. "I will end this foolishness now. I will kill both adults and take the child. She will learn not to be so soft when she grows up in chains." The weapon began to charge with a high whining sound. Hana closed her eyes, wrapping her arms around Mira and Gina, trying to shield them with her own body. She thought about her family back on Earth. She thought about all the things she would never get to do. But she did not regret her choice. Some things were worth dying for. The protection of innocence was one of them. But before the captain could fire, a new voice cut through the air. "I don't think so." Taman stepped out from behind a broken crystal tree, his security rifle aimed directly at the Korthak captain's head. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye, and his uniform was torn and dirty, but his hands were steady. "Step away from them," Taman said in a voice that carried the authority of someone who had seen real combat. The captain's compound eyes swiveled to look at the new threat. But he did not lower his weapon. "Another human," he said with amusement. "How many of you are willing to die for these aliens?" "As many as it takes," came another voice. Two more human security guards emerged from different hiding spots, their weapons trained on the Korthak soldiers. They looked tired and battered from the fighting, but they were still ready to fight. The captain's mandibles clicked with what might have been annoyance. "You are outnumbered across your entire settlement," he told them. "Most of your people are already dead or captured. These few soldiers will not save you." "Maybe not," Taman agreed, "but we'll make you work for it." Hana felt a surge of hope, but she could see that the situation was still desperate. There were only 3 human guards against the Korthak soldiers, and more enemy troops would come soon. They needed a different solution. That was when Hana remembered something important. She was not just a mining engineer. She was a human mining engineer, and humans were very good at thinking their way out of impossible situations. "Captain," Hana said, stepping forward slightly, "before you start a fight you might not win. Let me ask you something." The captain kept his weapon aimed at her, but his eyes showed curiosity. "Speak quickly, human. Why are you really here?" Hana asked. "I mean, yes, you want Valerian children for the slave markets. but this is a very long way to come for just a few slaves. There has to be something else. The captain's eyes narrowed. He was clearly wondering if this was some kind of trap. Hana pressed on. You're not just raiders, are you? You're scouts. You're looking for something specific. Behind the captain, one of the younger Korthak soldiers shifted nervously. Hana caught the movement and understood immediately. The Crystal Gardens, she said with sudden realization. You're not just here for slaves. You're here for the Valerian farming technology. The captain's silence told her she was right. The Valerian crystal plants were incredibly valuable, but they could only be grown by Valerians themselves. The plants needed some kind of special touch that only their species could provide. If someone wanted to farm these plants on a large scale, they would need Valerian workers. But not just any Valerians. They would need Valerians who had been trained from childhood, who did not remember their freedom, who would work without question. You're not just slave traders. Hana continued, her mind racing. You're working for someone bigger. Someone who wants to set up crystal farms using Valerian child slaves. The captain's mandibles clicked with anger. You are too clever for your own good, human. And you're making a big mistake, Hana said. What mistake? Hana smiled, though her heart was still pounding with fear. You assume that because we're a small mining colony, we're not connected to anything important. But you're wrong. She slowly reached for the communication device on her belt. The Korthak soldiers tensed, but she moved very carefully to show she was not going for a weapon. This colony is owned by the Terra Mining Corporation, Hana said. Do you know who that is? The captain's compound eyes narrowed. Every criminal in the galaxy knew about Terra Mining Corporation. It was one of the largest human companies in space, and it was known for protecting its investments very aggressively. So, the captain said, but his voice was less certain now. So every Terra mining facility has an automatic distress beacon, Hana explained. When your ships attacked us, the beacon activated automatically. It sent our location and a full recording of the attack to Terra Security Command. This was partly true. The beacon did exist, but Hana was not sure if it had actually activated. She was gambling with her life and the lives of everyone around her. You are lying, the captain said, but he sounded worried. Am I? Hana asked. How long do you think it takes for a Terra security fleet to respond to an attack on their people? How long do you think you have before human warships arrive here? The younger Korthak soldier spoke up nervously. Captain, maybe we should take what we have and leave. The humans are known for their revenge attacks. The captain whirled around and struck the younger soldier with one of his arms, sending him stumbling backward. Silence, he hissed, but Hana could see that doubt was creeping into the captain's mind. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy. They were known as a species that held grudges, that never forgot an attack on their people, that would chase enemies across the galaxy for revenge. Most of that reputation was exaggerated, but it was useful now. Here's what I think happened, Hana continued, pressing her advantage. Someone hired you to raid this colony and steal Valerian children. They probably told you it would be easy, that no one would care about a remote mining operation, but they lied to you. She took a step closer to the captain, still keeping herself between him and Mira and Gina. They didn't tell you this was a Terra facility. They didn't tell you that attacking it would bring human military forces down on your heads. They set you up. The captain's weapon wavered slightly. Hana could see him thinking, trying to decide if she was telling the truth. Tai Min, understanding what Hana was trying to do, spoke up. Captain, my security codes show 3 Terra security ships in this system right now. They're probably already on their way. This was a complete lie, but the captain had no way to know that. You have maybe 20 minutes before they arrive, Hana added. Maybe less. Is one Valerian child worth a fight with the Terran military? The captain looked around at his soldiers, then back at Hana. She could practically see the calculations running through his insect brain. The profit from one child slave versus the risk of a battle with human warships. But then his eyes hardened again. Nice try, human, he said. But I think you are bluffing. If Terra security was really coming, you would not be trying so hard to convince me to leave. Hana's heart sank. The captain was smarter than she had hoped. Besides, the captain continued, even if human ships are coming, we will be long gone before they arrive, and we will take the child with us. He raised his weapon again, pointing it directly at Hana's chest. Thank you for the information about Terra security, he said with cruel amusement. It will help us avoid their patrols on the way out of this system. Now step aside or die. Hana looked back at Mira and little Gina. The Valerian mother was holding her daughter close, both of them glowing with fear and sadness. She thought about backing down, about stepping aside and letting the Korthax take what they wanted. It would be the smart thing to do. It would keep her alive. But as she looked into Gina's innocent eyes, Hana knew she could never live with herself if she gave up now. "No," she said simply. The Korthak captain's weapon began to glow brighter, the energy building up for a killing shot. Hana could feel the heat from the weapon's charge, but she did not move. Behind her, Mira whispered a prayer in her musical Valerian language, and little Gina pressed her face against her mother's chest. But then something unexpected happened. Hana's communication device began beeping loudly. Everyone froze. The captain's weapon was still pointed at Hana, but his compound eyes looked down at the beeping device with suspicion. "What is that?" he demanded. Hana looked down at her communicator in surprise. She had not activated it. The beeping was coming from an incoming priority message. With slow, careful movements, she lifted the device where everyone could see it. "It's an automated message," she said, reading the display. "From Terra Mining Corporation Emergency Response Command." The captain's mandibles clicked nervously. "Read it," he ordered. Hana's eyes widened as she read the message. She had been bluffing about the security beacon, but apparently the beacon was real and it had activated. "Alert to all Terra facilities in Sector 7, she read aloud. "Distress signal received from New Haven Colony. Emergency response fleet dispatched. Estimated arrival in 15 minutes. All personnel take shelter and await rescue." The silence that followed was deafening. The captain stared at the communicator as if it might bite him. You were telling the truth?" he said slowly. "I told you," Hana said, though she was just as surprised as he was. "Terra mining protects its people." Taman grinned despite the blood on his face. 15 minutes, Captain. Think you can load your slaves and get back to your ships before human warships arrive?" The captain's head swiveled back and forth between his soldiers and the humans. Hana could see the panic starting to build in his insect eyes. Korthak raiders were used to attacking weak targets, not fighting real military forces. "Captain," one of his soldiers said urgently, "we should retreat now. Human warships are not something we want to face." But the captain was not ready to give up his prize. Little Gina was worth a fortune, and he had already lost several soldiers in the attack on the colony. He needed something to show for the losses. "No," he said firmly. "We take the child and run." "We can be off the planet in 5 minutes, and go where?" Hana asked. "Terra Security will track you across the galaxy. They'll never stop hunting you." "They will never find us," the captain replied, but his voice lacked conviction. That was when Hana had her second idea. It was dangerous and possibly stupid, but it might be their only chance. "What if I told you there was another way?" she said. The captain's eyes narrowed. "What way?" Hana took a deep breath. "What if I told you I could give you something worth more than all the Valerian children in the galaxy?" "Impossible. There is nothing that valuable." "Information," Hana said simply. "I'm the chief mining engineer for this facility. I know the location of every rare mineral deposit on this planet, including the deposits that Terra Mining hasn't announced yet." She was making this up as she went, but she could see she had the captain's attention. "This planet has the largest concentration of quantum crystals ever discovered," she continued. "Do you know what quantum crystals are worth?" The captain's compound eyes gleamed with greed. Quantum crystals were used in faster-than-light engines. They were incredibly valuable and very rare. "You are lying," he said, but he wanted to believe her. "The deposits are in the northern mountains," Hana said, pointing toward the peaks visible in the distance. "Terra Mining has been keeping it secret while they figure out how to extract them safely. But I have all the survey data." This was actually true. There were quantum crystal deposits in the mountains, though they were much smaller than Hana was suggesting. "Why would you tell me this?" the captain asked suspiciously. "Because quantum crystal coordinates are worth more than one Valerian child," Hana said. "And because if you take that information and leave now, you might actually escape before Terra Security arrives." Behind the captain, his soldiers were looking nervous. The idea of fighting human warships clearly terrified them more than their captain's anger. "Captain," one of them said urgently, "the human makes sense. We could mine quantum crystals for years. Much more profit than one slave." The captain considered this, his insect brain working through the possibilities. "Show me," he said finally. "Show me the survey data." Hana slowly reached for the data pad on her belt. But instead of pulling up mining surveys, she activated a different program, one that very few people knew about. "Here," she said, holding up the data pad so the captain could see the screen. But what the captain could not see was that Hana had activated her personal recording system. Everything that had happened in the last few minutes was now being broadcast to a very special receiver, the Galactic Council's Criminal Investigation Division. "These are the survey maps," Hana said, showing the captain fake data that looked very impressive. "Quantum crystal deposits worth billions of credits." The captain studied the data pad greedily, his weapon lowering slightly as he became distracted by the possibility of enormous wealth. "I will take this information," he said finally, "but I will also take the child. Insurance, you understand?" "No," Hana said firmly. "The deal is information for the child's freedom. Take it or leave it." "You are in no position to bargain, human." "Actually, I am," Hana said with a smile, "because you now have less than 10 minutes before Terra security arrives. And because I've been recording this entire conversation." The captain's head snapped up. "What? Everything you've said, everything you've done has been recorded and transmitted to the Galactic Council," Hana explained. "Child slavery is illegal in every civilized system. If you take Gina now, you'll have both Terra security and the Council hunting you." The captain's weapon came up again, pointing directly at Hana's head. "You stupid human. You have doomed us all." "No," Hana said calmly. "I've given you a choice. Take the mining data and run, or stay here and face the consequences." The younger Korthak soldier stepped forward. "Captain, we need to leave now. The quantum crystals are worth more than any slave, and we can mine them safely far from human space." The captain looked around at his nervous soldiers, then back at Hana and the Valerian family. His compound eyes were wild with rage and greed and fear. "Give me the data pad," he snarled. "First, promise that you'll leave the child alone," Hana said. "I promise nothing." "Then you get nothing," Hana replied. "Your choice, Captain. But you now have less than 8 minutes. The sound of engines could be heard in the distance, growing louder. Whether it was Terra security or just atmospheric noise, it was enough to make the Korthak soldiers even more nervous. "Captain," one of them urged. "We must go." The captain stared at Hana with pure hatred, his mandibles clicking rapidly. But finally greed won over pride. "Fine," he spat. "Give me the data and we will leave the child." "Swear it," Hana said. "Swear by whatever gods your people believe in." The captain's eyes blazed with anger, but he spoke the words. "I swear by the Hive Mother that we will not take the Valerian child." Hana handed him the data pad. The captain grabbed it with one of his clawed hands and gestured to his soldiers. "We leave. Now." As the Korthaks began to retreat toward their ships, Hana felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she knew this was not over yet. There were still ways this could go wrong, very wrong. The Korthak soldiers were halfway back to their ships when the sky began to glow. 3 massive human warships dropped out of hyperspace directly above the colony, their dark hulls blocking out the sun. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, sleek like hunting birds but covered with weapon ports and armor plating. The lead ship was the TDF Inchin, a heavy cruiser that looked like it could crack a planet in half. Behind it came 2 smaller destroyers, the Sol and the Busan. All 3 ships bore the distinctive markings of the Terran Defense Fleet. Hana had never been so happy to see anything in her entire life. The Korthak captain stopped running and looked up at the human ships with his compound, eyes wide with terror. His soldiers clustered around him, their weapons forgotten, their insect heads tilted back to stare at the massive vessels above them. "This is Admiral Sung-Ho of the Terran Defense Fleet," came a voice from speakers on all 3 ships. "Attention Korthak vessels. You are in violation of Galactic Council laws regarding slavery and piracy. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." The captain looked around desperately as if searching for somewhere to hide, but there was nowhere to run. The human ships had positioned themselves perfectly to block any escape route. "You tricked me," the captain said to Hana, his voice shaking with rage and fear. "No," Hana replied calmly. "I saved you. If you had taken Gina, those ships would have hunted you to the edge of the galaxy. Now you have a chance to surrender and face trial instead of execution." The captain's mandibles clicked frantically. "I will not surrender to humans." "Then you will die," came Admiral Sung-Ho's voice from above. "You have 30 seconds to decide." Taemin stepped forward, his rifle still ready. "Captain, your soldiers look smarter than you do." Maybe you should listen to them. Indeed, the Korthak soldiers were backing away from their captain, their fear clearly overcoming their loyalty. One of them, the young one who had spoken earlier, dropped his weapon completely. "Captain," the young soldier said, "we should surrender. We are outnumbered and outgunned." "Coward," the captain screamed, turning his weapon on his own soldier. But before he could fire, a blue beam of energy struck him from above. It was not a killing shot, but a stun beam from one of the human ships. The captain collapsed to the ground, his weapon skittering away across the crystal garden. The remaining Korthak soldiers immediately threw down their weapons and raised all 6 of their arms in surrender. "Wise choice," Admiral Sung-ho's voice said from the ships. "Remain where you are. Marine teams are on their way down." Hana felt her knees go weak with relief. She sat down hard on the ground, suddenly realizing how terrified she had been. Behind her, Mira was crying tears of crystal that sparkled like diamonds in the sunlight. "It's over," Taemin said, lowering his rifle. "We did it." Little Gina looked up at her mother with confusion. "Mama, are the bad bugs gone?" "Yes, little star," Mira said in her musical voice. "The bad bugs are gone. The nice humans made them go away." Hana looked up as several small ships descended from the human warships. These were marine transports filled with Terran soldiers who would secure the area and arrest the remaining Korthaks. But the first person off the lead transport was not a marine. It was a woman in the uniform of a Terran admiral, with kind eyes and graying hair. She walked directly to where Hana was sitting. "You must be Engineer Hana Kim," Admiral Sung-ho said, extending her hand. "I've been reading the reports of what happened here. Very impressive work." Hana stood up and shook the admiral's hand. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," the admiral said firmly. "You did what a human would do. There's a difference." Behind the admiral, a tall man in civilian clothes approached. He wore the insignia of a Galactic Council investigator. "Ms. Kim," the investigator said, "I am Agent Park from the Criminal Investigation Division. We received your transmission about the child slavery operation. Thanks to your recording, we now have evidence to shut down one of the largest illegal slave networks in the galaxy." Hana blinked in surprise. "Network? But this was just one ship." "No," Agent Park explained. "This was much bigger than you realized. The Korthaks were working for a criminal organization that has been kidnapping alien children for years. Your evidence will help us arrest dozens of criminals across multiple systems." Admiral Sung-ho nodded approvingly. "When humans see children in danger, we don't just save those children. We make sure the danger is eliminated permanently." Mira approached them, still carrying little Gina. The Valerian mother's skin was glowing with a soft, grateful light. "I do not understand," Mira said in her careful common language. "Why did humans come to help us?" "We are not your people," Admiral Sung-ho smiled warmly. "Because that's what humans do," she said. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves. It doesn't matter what species they are." The admiral knelt down so she was at eye level with little Gina. "Hello there, little one. Are you okay?" Gina nodded shyly, her opal skin flickering with curiosity instead of fear. "Are you a good human?" she asked in her tiny voice. "I try to be," the admiral said gently, "and so do all the humans on my ships." Agent Park was taking notes on his data pad. "Ms. Kim, your quick thinking and courage saved not just this child but potentially hundreds of others. The Galactic Council will want to recognize your actions." "I don't need recognition," Hana said. "I just want to make sure this never happens again." "It won't," Admiral Sung-ho said firmly. "Terra Mining Corporation is upgrading security at all remote facilities, and the Defense Fleet is establishing regular patrols in this sector. Over the next few hours, the human Marines secured the area and arrested all the surviving Korthaks. Medical teams treated the wounded colonists, both human and Valerian. Engineers began repairing the damage to the settlement, but most importantly, families were reunited. Other Valerian children who had been captured were freed from the Korthak ships. Parents who had thought their children were lost forever held them close and cried tears of crystal joy. As the sun began to set over New Haven Colony, Hana found herself sitting in the crystal garden with Mira and Gina. The little Valerian girl was playing with a toy that one of the human Marines had given her, her skin glowing with happiness. "I still do not understand," Mira said to Hana. "In our culture, we care for our own families, our own communities. But humans, you care for everyone." Hana thought about this for a moment. Maybe that's what makes us human, she said finally. We see a child in danger and it becomes our child. We see a family threatened, and it becomes our family. Mira's crystalline features softened with emotion. You risked your life for strangers. No, Hana said, watching Gina play. I risked my life for family. That's what you became the moment someone tried to hurt Gina. Admiral Sung-ho approached them, her expression serious but kind. Ms. Kim, I have an offer for you. Terra Mining wants to promote you to Regional Security Director, and the Defense Fleet could use someone with your courage and quick thinking. Hana looked around at the peaceful colony, at the Valerian families rebuilding their homes, at little Gina playing safely in the garden. Thank you, she said, but I think I'll stay here. Someone needs to make sure this place stays safe. The Admiral smiled. I thought you might say that. In that case, you'll be happy to know that New Haven Colony is being designated as a protected sanctuary world. No one will threaten these people again.